the Cold War. Now, there was crisis in Germany because Germany, Britain, and the U.S. had combined their zones in Germany to form West Germany, where democracy and freedoms and rights were the name of the game. But then East Germany was communist, where there was no democracy, no rights. And some of the East Germans were realizing very quickly that the West Germans had it a lot better than they did. Stalin, however, did not like this. He wanted a strong, unified Germany, so he was hoping to be able to take over East Germany to be able to use it. Now, Berlin, the capital city of Germany, was located in East Germany, the Soviet side. So they even divided up the capital of Germany. So you had East Berlin with the Soviet side, and then you had West Berlin, which was made up of the French piece, the British piece, and the U.S. piece, and that formed West Berlin. Okay. Now, people were starting to, for quite a while, people could go from East Berlin to West Berlin. It was not an issue. If you lived in West Berlin, you could go to your job on East Berlin, go back home. Not a big deal. Now, eventually, though, that's going to stop. In 1948, Stalin hoped to force the Allies out of Berlin by closing off all land routes bringing supplies to West Berlin. Basically, any of the roads, the railways that led into West Berlin, Stalin blocked so that West Berlin could not get any food, medical supplies, housewares, clothing, anything that you would need to live your life on a daily basis. Well, the U.S. and the rest of Europe got angry with this, and they started the Berlin Airlift, which they started just flying their planes over Berlin and dropping down huge cases of food, medical supplies, and anything that people might have needed. This airlift lasted for almost an entire year. One of the biggest things that, believe it or not, was airlifted in was Hershey's chocolate. All of the boxes of supplies, Milton Hershey always had Hershey's chocolate put in because he wanted Europe to know that the Americans were supporting them. Now, Stalin got desperate, so he started to build a wall. I should say the Berlin airlift didn't work, and so after Stalin's death, the new leader of the Soviet Union got very nervous because at this point he was trying to stop people from defecting from East Berlin going to West Berlin, and he realized this was not good, so they started to build the Berlin Wall. You'll see an awesome movie about this when you do your blend space lesson in a little while here. In 1961, the East German government built a wall that separated East Berlin from West Berlin. You can see a picture of it right up there in the corner. The East German soldiers shot anyone who attempted to escape to West Berlin, and the Berlin Wall became a symbol for basically the entire Cold War. Now you can see that picture there. That's Checkpoint Charlie, the one with the building. You can see the pillars. That's a very famous area where you could go from West Berlin to East Berlin. Gattenberg Gate, I believe, is the other name for it. And you can see the side here with all of the graffiti on it. That is West Berlin. If you were to go on the other side of that wall on East Berlin, there would be no graffiti. They were not allowed to write on the wall. There was no freedom of speech. And you can see the picture there in black and white of the soldiers. Those are East German soldiers who are there prepared to shoot anyone who tries to come over or through the wall. Now, all of this stress is going to lead to the creation of opposing military alliances. Remember, alliances are countries who choose to work together for a common goal. Now, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, all right, was made up of Western European countries: America, Canada, England, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Turkey, so Ireland, Wales, basically all of the democratic Western European nations. They made up NATO, which is still around today. It's still an important group in our modern day politics. Okay, so when NATO was formed, the Soviet Union got very nervous, so they formed the Warsaw Pact in 1955. And this was all the Soviet Union communist countries working together. So it was the Soviet Union and the 7 satellite states it controlled in Eastern Europe. It was purely for defense, trying to say that we have as much as you do. So Soviet Union, Poland, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, those areas. Now, eventually, this is going to lead to a massive arm race in the late 50s going into the 60s. During this time period, the atomic weaponry switched over to nuclear weapons. Now, just so you understand, one nuclear bomb is the same as dropping 10 atomic bombs at once. So a nuclear bomb is very, very stronger, it is bigger, and it will literally, from the radioactive fallout, it will kill millions of people. That's why no one's ever used one, because it is a deadly, deadly force. So both the US and the Soviet Union are trying to create a nuclear weapon first. This leads to an arms race, arms being weapons. This arms race lasted 40 years, and it raised the level of tension between the two superpowers. There was a lot of fear going on, people worrying it was going to be the end of the world. They used to do drills in school that my parents used to have to do, where they would hear the air raid siren go off, and they would hide underneath their desks. You can see the picture here. And there was all sorts of comic books about World War III and nuclear bombs and things of that nature. A lot of fear. Now, this would lead to the space race. Basically, whatever the Soviet Union was doing, we, the United States, had to do better, and whatever we were doing in the U.S., the Soviet Union had to do better. So in 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, which is the first satellite to orbit around the Earth. Now, this led to a big, huge technology boom in the United States, because we were going to get to the moon before the Soviet Union did. So, in 1958, the U.S. launched its own satellite. By 1961, the Soviets had sent the first man into space, and by 1969, we had put the first man on the moon. Both the Soviet Union and the U.S. explored the use of military space and spy satellites, and many people feared the Cold War would extend into space. And a lot of those spy satellites, guys, are still around today, and they're still being used. So the Cold War is something that still has a huge impact on us today. As you're going to see in the next slideshow, it had a huge impact around the world.